Toma.
Welcome to this deep dive. Today, we're looking at something, well, incredibly familiar, grocery shopping.
Yeah, something most of us do probably every week, maybe even more often.
Exactly. And you, our listener, sent in some fascinating sources notes, an article all about the surprisingly revolutionary history behind how we actually buy our food.
Right. And our goal here is to unpack that shift. How did we get from this really slow, old-fashioned counter system to the self-service aisles we know today? And why did that matter so much?
Okay, let's dig in. So the sources describe shopping before, say, 1916. It sounds completely alien, all centered around a counter.
Absolutely. Picture this. You walk in, and there's this big counter. Everything the store sells, it's behind that counter on shelves the shopkeeper can reach, but you can't.
So you couldn't just wander around?
Nope. No aisles to browse.
Yeah.
You stood on your side, the shopkeeper on theirs.
And you had to, just ask for every single thing you wanted?
Pretty much. You'd say, I need a pound of sugar, or can I get some coffee beans? And the shopkeeper would fetch it.
Yep.
They'd weigh things out, flour, sugar, coffee, that sort of thing, wrap it all up.
Wow, that sounds incredibly time-consuming.
Oh, it was. Terribly slow. The sources really emphasized the waiting. Only one customer could really be served at a time by each clerk.
And you mentioned something else interesting from the sources about the prices.
Yeah, this is key. You usually couldn't see the prices of anything. They weren't marked on the goods.
Seriously, no price tags.
Generally, no.
Yeah.
You often wouldn't know the total cost until the shopkeeper added it all up at the very end. Imagine that lack of transparency.
That really changes the dynamic, doesn't it? Puts a lot of trust, or maybe power, with the storekeeper. So, okay, that was the norm. How did we get from that to, now?
Well, the big turning point came in 1916. A man named Clarence Saunders opened a store in Memphis, Tennessee. It was called Piggly Wiggly.
Piggly Wiggly, okay.
And it wasn't just a small change. It was a complete a reinvention of how grocery shopping worked. He flipped the whole model on its head.
How so? What did he actually do differently?
Several things that seem obvious now, but were totally radical then. First, he laid out the store with a specific path. A clear entrance, aisles to walk through, and a clear exit. You move through the space.
Instead of just standing at the counter.
Exactly. And second, this is the big one. He put the products out on shelves where customers could reach them.
Ah, so you could actually pick things up yourself.
Precisely. Self-service, you browse, you choose, you take it off the shelf yourself.
And connected to that.
You put a price tag on every single item, clearly visible.
So you knew exactly how much something cost before you decided to buy it. You could compare.
Right. It gave the customer agency, information, transparency.
And how did people carry their stuff around?
He provided baskets, metal baskets, according to the sources, for people to gather their items as they walked the aisles. Then you'd take it all to a checkout stand at the end to pay.
That is basically the blueprint for every supermarket today, isn't it?
It really is. And the impact was immediate.
I bet. Faster for the customer, right?
Yeah.
Less waiting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Way less waiting. Plus, that power of seeing prices, comparing brands side by side. But it was also huge for the store.
How so?
Well, think about it. You could serve many more customers at the same time because they weren't all waiting for one clerk. It was much more efficient, needed less staff behind the counter just fetching things. It boosted volume.
So the idea caught on quickly.
Oh, yeah. Piggly Wiggly was a huge success, and other stores started copying the self-service model pretty fast. It became the new way to do things.
And this eventually led to even bigger stores, right? The supermarket.
Exactly. By the 1930s, you see the first real supermarkets appearing, like the one mentioned in Long Island, New York. And the sources point to two other key inventions that really enabled that scale up.
Let me guess, the car and the home refrigerator.
You got it. The automobile meant people could travel further to a larger store, not just the corner shop, and they could carry more groceries home. And the refrigerator meant you could buy perishable goods, milk, meat, produce in larger quantities, and keep them fresh at home for, say, a week. You didn't need to shop every day or two.
It all clicked together. The self-service idea, cars, fridges, to create the weekly big shop we know.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah.
We walk into a supermarket today, grab a cart, wander the aisles, maybe even use a self-scanner. It feels so completely normal.
Totally second nature.
But that core concept, walking through, picking your own items, seeing the price that was truly revolutionary just over a century ago, thanks to Clarence Saunders, it wasn't just about efficiency. It shifted the whole relationship between the shopper and the store.
It really makes you realize how these everyday things we take for granted often have these, well, surprisingly recent and radical histories. That simple act of grabbing a can of beans off a shelf yourself, it genuinely changed things.
Absolutely. And it leaves you with a thought, doesn't it? What other parts of your daily routine, things you do completely automatically, might have a hidden history like that? What else started as something totally new and disruptive, maybe even controversial back then, that we've just completely normalized? Something to think about.